What's going on? Let me get a feel for who all is on. Cliff,
Yes.
Mary, Aaron, Tim,
Yes.
Joe, Leibel. We got Spencer, Shaviva, Latanya, Rhonda, myself. Do we have any other voting board members on right now? Marcus, are you on? Jamie, are you on? Teresa, are you on? Okay. Well, we'll roll with the folks we got. So, thanks everybody for joining. We do also have Councilwoman Jewin and Councilman Bozen joining us. So, thank you all. Do we have anybody, any of the students from the Youth City Council that are on?
Yes, I'm on. Alonzia Quinn.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing all right. Doing all right. Thanks for jumping on. Thanks for being engaged. So, let's go ahead and jump into the agenda. Kendra sent it out here earlier today, as well as a rendering for us. Looking back last month's meeting, there seemed to be a notion that the committee hasn't made a ton of progress, and I'll admit that I sort of get into that brain space every once in a while as well. But I do think it's good for us to reflect on the progress that we have made up to this point, right? We've created council created this committee to figure out how to change this existing Waterloo Police Department insignia. We've been meeting virtually here since October of 2020. We've identified commonality in values from sort of both perspectives on this issue. We've identified commonality of values that we want to see in the department, as well as identifying criteria by which a design and an insignia was going to be judged. And so that alone is no small feat. We reviewed over 100 submissions. We narrowed that down to 50, or just about 50. We then went in and narrowed that down even further to 4 concepts. And we engaged with those artists to take our feedback, really constructive feedback, and sort of fine tune those designs. And so ultimately we got a good chunk of designs to review back from that feedback. At the last meeting, we settled in on 6 designs to proceed with as we continue to review these submissions. So again, I just want to stress, there are times where I feel like I felt like my hairline was going to start to look like Cliff's real quick. But we've done some real work. We've done some real lifting. Frankly, I think looking at the scores and looking at where we've come so far, I think we've all, or at least hopefully most of us, have bought in on this concept of compromise, right? This this was never a committee. Council didn't create this committee with the expectation that every single person on the committee, every single community member was going to be, tickled pink by what it was that we settled in on. That's not the nature of compromise. I think where we're headed is in the right direction, and so we did send the 6 designs that we voted on. Those designs were the 2 top Griffin-based designs, the 2 top non-Griffin-based designs, and then the top design of the remaining categories, the remaining groupings from those originally submitted designs that we asked artists to go in and tweak. Unfortunately, the patch maker, the embroidery shop, was not able to supply those patches, sort of sample patches for us. Came back to about $1,000, Joe, if I'm correct. Certainly more. Go ahead, Joe.
It was like 1,200, and I had to get 50 each, and they're like $4 a piece, so it was about $200 per patch, and it would have been a lot of money.
Yeah. So unfortunately, this committee isn't authorized to spend coin. Our job is to make recommendations. We were able to have a designer submit digital mock-ups, which Kendra sent around to the committee members earlier, and so we were able to take a peek and see what these designs would and could look like in embroidery form. So we don't have the physical patches, but we do have an idea of where this thing is, what this can look like. So yeah, just wanted to sort of give a quick update on sort of where we're at up to this point. I think we all deserve a pat on the back, and quite frankly, probably a really stiff drink. But I think we're headed in the right direction here. So let me pull up the agenda here. So, sorry, trying to get my screen all situated. So for review on that second sheet, the second page of your agenda, you'll see again the top 2 Griffin-based designs, the top 2 non-Griffin designs, and then the added designs of 59B and the really long number C2. Those were the top of those categories. I believe Aaron made that motion at the last meeting. You'll see, sort of what the scoring was there with each of those designs, what the average scoring was. It ranged between just shy of 6 and just a little over 7. And so, all of those designs, quite frankly, with a committee that was intentionally created with even parts, right, 6 and 6, to come to an agreement over an average of 5 is saying there was some give and some take, which is awesome. The resolution does require this committee to first consider a Griffin-based design, and then we can move on. Does it specify a number that we've got to vote on? I don't think Councilman Jewin or Councilwoman Jewin that there was no specificity in the number of designs we needed to review. It was just that we needed to first consider a Griffin-based design, and then.
Yeah, Tavis, we would ask that you first give consideration to a Griffin and then non-Griffin, but we did not specify a number for either. And we did not specify, I'm gonna insert this now if Dave would agree, we did not specify how many recommendations would come to the council. My personal preference would be that you would come to us with your number one recommendation. And then let me just also reinforce something Tava said before. We did not authorize any funding for this committee. And so to create the patches at $1,200 was not a consideration that the council gave to this committee. Would you agree, David?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Sharon, I was on the phone with Marty.
Okay, no money and one recommendation. There you go.
Okay.
Thank you, David.
You got it. Thank you. So, we want to sort of chat through designs. Like I said, we've got these on the second page of the agenda. We've got the overall ranking, and then either Griffin or non-Griffin ranking. So the top designs of sort of each of those categories. Open it up to the floor here.
I make a motion that we send the number one Griffin design to City Council
Is that
as a compromise, like go for the Griffin design, but the Griffin design that was the one of compromise.
Can you specify what that number is?
107C.
All right. Kendra, can you, or whomever is running the,
Yeah, it's 107C.
we can get that shared up on the screen. That'd be helpful. All right. So we've got a motion on the floor for approval of 107C. We need a second of the motion, and then we can have some discussion.
I'll second that.
Right. We've got a motion and a second. And a second. Teresa. All right. I would assume we've got some discussion, but
Well, this is Tim. I would support the motion, but in the spirit of compromise, only to say that for some study, some thought into it, spirit of compromise, spirit of learning new perspectives that I had not considered before involving the current Griffin. My favorite was 22, 26, 34C2. But I would just say, with that in mind, if we as a committee settled on 107C, I can live with that in the spirit of compromise. My one concern, let's just supposing if we put that in front of the council as our committee recommendation, what haunts me a little bit is what Dave Bozen brought up a meeting or two ago as to the similarity to our World War II opponents. I don't know how else to put it. Is there a similarity that somebody's going to find offensive with the Nazi eagle?
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I want to throw this out here and see. I just like to know from the committee, is there any of the 6 that are a hard no? I mean, from all of us, is there anything that's a hard no for any of the 12 of us of the 6 remaining patches? I mean, we've kind of come to these 6. Is there any of them that anybody of the 12 committee members would say absolutely not that one?
Joe, I would say that any of them with the bridge, I would say are out. My opinion.
Anybody else got anything they, cross off, for lack of a better term?
I think Tim's, I'll just go ahead and jump in here. I think Tim's point of the concept of compromise is important. That was the purpose in which this committee was created. And the fact that we were able to get an average score of over 7, that means it earned over 70% of the available points by the criteria that we set. I think certainly those top 2 make a ton of sense at that point. The overall rankings, number 1 and number 2, so that's designs 107C and G. Certainly, I wouldn't necessarily think that anything that scored below a 6 would qualify. So 59B in my book would probably be out. Overall ranking 109C. It's under the top 10. So I would probably say that one's out. 22, 26, 34, C2, quite frankly, to me, does not represent the type of change that I think, and doesn't necessarily represent the type of compromise, frankly, that I think that this committee was tasked with and asked to seek. And so I really think 107C and 107G, those upper left, upper right are our best options.
Well, again, hi, this is Cliff. Again, I'd like to echo what Tim had said. Again, when you look at those 2, they, really don't look like a griffin. They look more like an eagle. And I would find offense to those 2 myself. The compromise, if we're talking compromise, the one with the griffin at 22, 26, 34 C2 is more of a compromise. That being said, I've thought long and hard about this throughout this whole process. And I honestly thought that I could, think this through and help as much as I could. I'm speaking as a taxpayer, and in good conscience, I cannot vote for something that I know that the majority of the citizens, especially the taxpayers, did not want. The city can't afford at this point to be doing things like this. But again, as a taxpayer, in good conscience, I can no longer be a part of this committee. So with that, I will say thank you for the opportunity to be on this committee. But like I say, I cannot continue with things the way they are. And I appreciate all that all the committee has done. And thank you for your time.
Thanks for sticking with us as long as you did and seeing this through. Sorry that you're stepping off, but I get it. I don't want folks to go outside of their conscience on this thing. Sorry we didn't get to meet in person. Hopefully we'll grab a drink at some point, safely, socially distanced.
Yeah.
And yeah, appreciate your service, Cliff.
Yeah, thank you.
Davis, someone asked, did we have a hard no? My hard no is 22, 26, 34 C2. And then I also like the patches that do have the bridges.
Travis, can I say something quick as far as the bridges? As me as an officer, there's been a lot of crime in those bridges, and I don't think that should represent Waterloo. I mean, people have been assaulted on there. People urinate on there, defecate on there. The bridges, to me, I mean, they had to take the glass off because they had to be able to, officers be able to look inside those inside the bridge to make sure officers can hear someone if they're screaming for help, or if they can see someone getting assaulted. I mean, I drove by off duty and see people urinate on it. I mean, I just don't think the bridge is going to be a good example to show on our patches to represent Waterloo. That's why I do not recommend the bridge at all.
People also look at the current Griffin and feel that it is a symbol of discrimination, racism.
And that's
And
their
when you
opinion.
go back, and when you go, just like you're saying, the bridge represents people urinating and doing all this other stuff.
But then
This is
I
my first time hearing that people have done that. So again, I for whatever reason you dislike the bridge, I look at the bridge as a symbol of bringing us together. We've heard those different comments, bridging the community, bridging. So that's how I look at the bridge. I never knew people urinated and did all this other stuff on it.
Yes, people have urinated on it, defecated on it. People have been assaulted on the bridge. And a lot of people don't know that because we don't go around and say everything that happens every day. But and I understand your opinion, but if we can't agree on the bridge, then I don't think we should agree on the Griffin. I don't think we should agree on anything today. And whoever keeps muting me, please allow me to talk.
Sorry, Rhonda, that was me. Actually, I was trying to unmute me and I muted you.
Okay. Well, this happened before, and I just don't understand why you have people ask me to be on a committee and I get muted all the time.
No, that was me. I was trying to unmute myself just to say that everybody's opinion is our opinions, and
right.
We all look at this differently. So I think we just need to value that and respect the fact that we're all going to look at this through a different window of our life. And your window is obviously different than mine, and that's just the way it is.
Okay, but when Mr. Hurley was talking about the Griffin, or not the Griffin, but the ones that were voting on 107, they also, Mr. Hurley and Mr. Bozen both brought up the impression of what it's compared to with the war. And so I don't agree that those should be on there as well. If we're going to spend all this money, we need to compromise and agree on one patch, but it doesn't sound like we're getting anywhere.
So my question to the group then would be, because Aaron, was it you who spoke last time? Because there was a lot of due diligence about the patch and the eagle by the Human Rights Commission. And also from Aaron, would it make people on the committee feel better if the people who verbalize from the different faith communities that it's not offensive to them? Because those who were talked to from different synagogues and different beliefs did not find this to resemble the Nazi eagle. And I don't know if Aaron wants to add any more to that.
I don't know what else I can add. I have the degree, I have the background, I have the family that survived the Holocaust, but still people are going to say they see something I don't. You're entitled to your opinions, but mine is the educated opinion, and I'm not sure why men's uneducated opinions are coming before my educated opinion. I don't know what else to say. I've made it very clear. The Anti-Defamation League has made it very clear. If we have a problem with eagles, then we also have a problem with the flag of Iowa and the flag of the United States. And it is absolutely wrong to say that all eagles are derivative of Nazi eagles. It doesn't have the characteristics. It's not holding anything in its beak. It doesn't have claws. It's not clutching a circle emblem in those claws. It isn't straight lines like we talked about before. It's modern and fluid. It's not straight and heraldic. I'm not sure what else I can say to be clear.
Aaron, for me, you don't have to say anything else. I respect your educated opinion.
I hope so.
And that really the only reason I brought it up was to elicit this kind of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I think your perspective is absolutely valuable, but sometimes less educated and more and less parochial folks. We're just trying to make sure is all. That's all it was. And sometimes opinions come not from the brain, but from the gut, which is also a brain.
Well, that's very true. But sometimes when we have gut reactions, we actually have to check that with information, right? And not just to go on the gut feeling, but to follow it up with diligence. And we've done that. You know, it's just not there. If you want to discount it, please do so for other reasons, because it's not there.
So to both Tim and Aaron, I actually appreciate it being brought up. It's this sort of conversation that didn't happen between maybe opposing sides or fully engaging the community when the current insignia was adopted. And what results from not having these clarifying conversations on the front end is turmoil on the back end. And so having this conversation now before it is adopted, if it is adopted or recommended, if it is ultimately recommended to council from this committee, it's important, I think, for these conversations to happen, to give it light, as Shaviva would say, give it air, right? To have these conversations where there might be some reason to critique, we work through that critique, and if we ultimately decide to make the recommendation as a committee, then we do so with having full conversations and perspectives from folks who seem like pertinent and relevant folks here.
We do have a motion and a second on the floor, and I know we're in the discussion phase, and I would, in the sake of the motion, I would be interested to hear from Major Leibold or any of the WPD folks or those knowledgeable in design. Why do you suppose 107C came in ahead of 107G? Is there in other words, the blue versus the black?
Spencer, go ahead, man, whatever.
Can we get the prior screen up with this patches on there?
Yeah, I'll get them up. It just makes it hard for me to mute and unmute myself.
Oh, okay. You know, as far as the one that we have a motion on the table for, it's coming up now. Yeah, I've heard a lot here just in the last 15 minutes, and I really hope that I'm qualified here to speak on this, but 107C in my mind is not a good design. I think it can elicit some other feelings as well from other people, but that's, I guess, with any design. 10 or 220, 22, 26, 34C, I'd probably like that the most. I've heard a lot about the spirit of compromise. I brought that up once. The Griffin is totally different. There's no vigilance, and the color scheme is completely different. That seems like quite a large compromise in my mind. And as far as the Anti-Defamation League, Dr. Chief Fitzgerald also reached out to them on our current patch, and they could not find any history where that was offensive. If we're citing Anti-Defamation League, but I know we're much beyond that. So I would be a no on this motion. Thank you.
Do we have any further discussion?
Tavis, I think you know how I feel about the, those 107C and 107G. Like I said, I'm concerned about Mr. Hurley and Mr. Bozen's, what people came and approached him about. So why are we gonna spend that money to change it if we need to change it again? And me being a city taxpayer, I don't want to see that money go to waste. I think it's a waste of money right now to change what we have, but I'm on the committee to help find something where we can work together. But you know my opinion on the bridge too. So I would also agree with Spencer, no on that motion.
So last, if I could say this.
Yeah, go ahead.
So where we're at, everybody is discounting some badge that we have. What happens when we have no recommendation? When we cannot agree?
Well,
We will.
presuming we need, I'm sorry, Tavis.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Well, there is a motion with a second on the floor. I think it would be interesting for the chair to call the vote if there's no more discussion. I'm presuming by the proclamation, we need a simple majority of 7. That would be 7 votes.
Correct.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So
Let me interject, Tavis. And again, I would welcome Dave's input. If you make no recommendation to us, then you're going to have the council make the recommendation and make the decision on the patch. And I guess I would recommend to the council that they look at the 6 top vote getters with all of the information that you see in front of you right now, as what was the high average score, the high overall ranking, and the high Griffin ranking and non-Griffin ranking. But you would be delegating that decision to the city council.
Sharon, my opinion, I don't like any of these that's down narrow. So in a way, I'm kind of like Cliff. I don't want to be any part of this new patch. I don't want to be any part of it. And I don't want to have to look at officers wearing something that they're not happy with. And I don't want to be any part of that as well. So,
But in response to that, one of the patches did receive support from the police side of the aisle.
Not the color scheme and stuff, though.
Well, they voted on it in the way it's in front of you. They voted in excess of 7 for the one that's in front of you.
I've already spoke with I'm with Cliff. I don't want to be on this patch committee and having to choose on something and see something on the other officers, on the officers patch that they don't like. I can't be a part of that. If it has to go to city council and let them decide, and if there's a way we could have the city taxpayers decide, since it's going to be their money and my money, Cliff's money, Spencer's, anybody who lives in Waterloo. I think it should be on the majority decision of the city taxpayers. Maybe they can do something with that with the city council. To me, it's a waste of money. But I can't stand on something. I can't agree like Cliff. I can't agree of picking something that none of these I like to see officers wear it on their patch and them being unhappy.
So just as I'm going through to see who I'm calling for votes here, are you staying on the committee or are you not, Rhonda?
I don't want to agree with any of these patches. I'll make a motion, but I don't want to.
Well, there's already a motion on the floor. There is an existing motion to approve 107C.
Just a quick question, Tavis, real quick. Didn't the Courier report that it's not coming from the taxpayers, but rather it's a bond of some sort?
Well, that's still taxpayer.
But still.
Yeah, it's they moved it from our general fund to our bonding fund. They're borrowing money versus paying operation.
The taxpayers pay the loan back.
Yeah, it's still borrowed money.
And it's not been identified where that money's coming from, because Michelle says they're going to try to do it with interest money on bonds, but she can't identify a source right now.
But it's not coming from the general fund.
It's still coming from the taxpayers though.
It wasn't put in the budget this year. And the budget that we served.
And it is important to remember that the purview of this committee is not to decide implementation. It's not to decide the funding mechanism for implementation. That is simply to make a recommendation to council. The council will need to vote on how to expend those dollars and on what schedule to implement. So we do have a motion on the floor and a second. I want to make sure I've got all of the active members of this committee. So we've got Aaron, Tim, Joe, Spencer, Shaviva, Latanya, Rhonda, Teresa, myself. I don't know. Marcus. Looks like Marcus, you're on. Jamie, are you on by chance? Or Jamad, sorry. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and on the motion as presented, 107C. We'll do a roll call vote. Aaron,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Joe,
No.
Spencer,
No.
Shaviva,
Yes.
Latanya,
Yes.
Rhonda. Rhonda,
No.
thank you. Teresa,
Yes.
Marcus, Marcus, I couldn't catch that. I heard his pocket, but I didn't hear a vote.
I voted no.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Myself, I'll vote yes. So we have 6 yeses. We've got now an 11-person committee. Everybody hear me all right? Okay, something went weird with my screen here. So we now have an 11-person committee with the resignation. At that point, that is simple majority, 6 of those of the 11.
Davis, were there just 10 people that voted?
Jamad is not, Jamie is not on the call. I've done roll call a few times to see who all was on. And Cliff resigned from the committee, and so that leaves us with 10 voting members present.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
So we have a majority. We have a recommendation.
That is a majority and a recommendation.
Well, I think it's unfortunate that Cliff bowed out at this point, and I understand. We had a 6-6 balanced committee. If this goes to council, Sharon and Dave, you need to explain to your cohorts how it came about.
Well,
Tim, I would also add, we don't have Jamad on.
so we lost one from each side.
We lost one from each perspective, correct?
Yeah.
Effectively.
So it could have been a 7-5 vote. We don't know. But
course.
certainly we will explain to the council the process that was used as Tavis summarized it earlier, and we will tell them the final vote as well.
All right.
The business of how to pay for this, phasing it in or not, that is 100% in the lap of the council who initiated and approved this resolution. That's none of our business.
Exactly.
Yep.
And
That's
just
why they get paid the big bucks, right?
by the action we did take does infer that it will be phased in, because the only thing we put into next year's budget was approximately half. We did not include the firearms, the guns, in the budget, in the proposal that went in for the CIP.
I believe, Sharon, the only thing that went over to the CIP was the uniforms. I don't know.
Patches and cars.
I don't know, but I thought it was just the uniforms. I didn't see anywhere in that CIP for the cars.
My understanding was that the cars was included in the total amount that went to the CIP. Again, that's something that we can iron out as a council.
Joe, would you know if that $70-some thousand included the cars or was just uniforms?
Hey, I'm gonna look and see what the budget was.
And then Spencer, I see your hand. Just jump in whenever you
real
get in where
quick.
you can fit in, man.
Real quick, while Joe's looking that up, I just want the council to keep in mind when they're looking at this design that passed, to have it printed up, look at it, and see what it would look like on an officer's uniform, and know that it might clash with the navy blue and it may need to be tweaked. I'm just saying that until you get it printed up and see what it looks like and put it up against the officer's shoulder, it could be a total game changer when you get it printed up and put it on there. If it looks really bad, I just want to keep that in mind. So
That's a really good point, Spencer. Would you like to make a motion for a backup patch? Like in case that one turns out to just be fugly, do we want to send a backup? Would you like to make a motion for that?
I would be open for that if the committee so decided. We could discuss on what that one might be. I would make a motion to decide on a backup patch.
We've got a motion.
I'll second that for the sake of discussion. And then say that the $70,000 covers uniforms only.
So we've got a motion and a second. Certainly there would be some discussion here on what would be a secondary or a backup patch in the event that council could not come to that would be. We have discussion.
I'd just like to ask Spencer, if the 107C, if the color of blue didn't match the uniform, you said if it clashed with the uniform, would that mean that we would change the blue so that it looked better with that uniform? Or would we go with 107G that has more black in it versus the blue?
It's really hard to say without actually seeing up against a uniform, how that would look. I mean, if it's too much like the color of our uniform, it could blend in and not as much could pop out. If it's a different color of blue, like more of a robin's egg or like that old central middle school blue, it could clash and just not look good. So I don't know. I'm not that great with this aspect of it, but I can tell you that I think this is not going to look that great up against our current uniform.
So 107G would look better because it's black?
So I would maybe suggest that, you know, council would have the ability to work with the artist to make color tweaks. Of course, it is the artist's design still, and so they would reserve the right to refuse to make. But chances are the artist would if the design, for instance, the brighter blue, which I think is probably your concern, Spencer, which is a fair one, might look a little funky next to that darker blue of the very deep navy blue. You know, to adjust that color some so it more closely resembles that of the uniform. I suspect that the artist would be willing to make some changes. You know, and I think that would certainly be within the purview of council.
Davis,
Yeah.
I don't think I mean, this committee was supposed to decide this. I mean, we're gonna throw it right back in the council's lap to make this decision. Then I don't understand why we even started this whole process with the committee.
Well, we got 107C. We got a design. So I don't think that's a small feat, Councilman Bozen, to say that we were able to come to a majority of support on this design. If there needs to be minor tweaks in terms of color, then
Well, let me do this on a minor tweak. If I, as a council person, said I think 107C is the best idea, but everything blue should be red,
then that would be up to the designer for council to work with the designer. Because it is still the designer's design. Nobody owns that except for that designer.
I'm just saying, I think if everything in blue on this patch was red, I think it would be more received by the current officers right now. And I haven't polled all these officers, but I know they don't like.
I think that it would be poorly received by a number of community members. So it would get you the same
red, other than red's on the existing patch. I mean, it's a totally different design that's on from the existing patch. First, we didn't want vigilance, then we didn't want the yellow, then we didn't want red. That's not compromise.
So your version of compromise then is to maintain vigilance, maintain yellow, and maintain red?
The one that was confused with the dragon is not on there anymore.
Davis.
Go ahead, Tanya.
You know, as I reiterated in previous meetings, I'm a member of a number of different organizations, and I'm a member of those organizations because of what they do. I'm not attached to the logos that each of those organizations have on their letterhead, their T-shirts, any of that. I'm attached to the work that they do. And anytime you are passionate about what you do, then you're not looking at what a logo looks like. You're working in those organizations and with those different members because you're passionate about what you're doing. You know, it's like I just don't get why. I just do not get why we are so focused on a patch. They need to be focused on the work they do to protect and serve the community.
Councilman Bozen, to your point, I think on whether a complete color change is sort of in the spirit of this committee. I mean, certainly that's your purview as a council member to maybe make that suggestion to amend the design. I think that it's the spirit of the committee and the spirit of the compromise has been accepted here by the adoption of 107C, is that it would be a yellow and blue design. If the shades of that blue were slightly different, I suspect that would be a-okay by the designer, and would be within the intent of this committee. But council can go ahead and vote no on this design if they so choose. Our job was to make a recommendation, not to make the decision. That's why
Davis,
every 2 years, a whole lot of folks vote for you all. Go ahead, Sharon.
I'm just looking at the resolution and it says that the committee shall present a final report to the Waterloo City Council for the council's approval. We have the final say, and we always have. So it's not that we have to, in your words, why are we waiting for a committee report if we're not going to approve it, or that we have to make the final approval? It is said all along that we have the final approval.
Yeah, go ahead, Rhonda.
The way this is going, I don't think we're ever going to approve. I say what we got so far, give it to the council, let them go with it, and I make a motion to adjourn.
We have another motion on
We have a standing motion, unless that motion would be withdrawn.
I wanted to ask Spencer which design he would like for the backup.
As a backup, one that I think would pass at this point, I would like to submit 107G as a backup design.
Okay, so we've got is that
It's an amended motion
okay?
to have 107G as a backup design.
Aaron, you had seconded that motion. It was Joe's motion.
Spencer's motion, I second.
Yep. All right. So Joe, do you accept Spencer's amended motion?
Yeah.
All right. So we've got a motion and a second on the floor to make 107G the alternative design for council consideration. Oops. Sorry. Let me see let me go back, find my list of voters again.
Tavis, would it be possible for you to blow that one up real quick, just so I could see the fine lettering down there at the bottom of that design?
Joe, is Joe Andrew that one?
Is that better?
Yep, perfect.
Yeah, and that's got that 1868 that we had talked about incorporating into designs. I sort of forgot that we had talked about adding that thing in if there was a new element. So, all right. So going back through my list here of members currently attending. So the motion is 107G as the backup design. Aaron. Aaron? Oh, looks like she froze. All right. Tim?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Spencer?
Yes.
All right. Shaviva?
Yes.
Latanya?
Yes.
All right. Rhonda?
No.
Teresa?
Yes.
Marcus?
No.
Aaron, were you able to reconnect?
Yes. Yes and yes.
Okay. All and I'll vote yes on that as well. So that one received 8 votes of support. So, Teresa.
I don't want to I don't know. Are people more satisfied with the one we just voted for than the first one that had the higher score?
I see a hand.
Question.
Because I mean, my personal preference was the one we just voted for, but because the other one, because it's the highest ranking, it got more score. But if there's these colors where it's a concern about it with the uniform, is it truly that we just picked a second that should have been our first?
Because honestly, I only motioned for the first one because it had the highest score. So if people like what Spencer said better, why not?
We've got a hand up from Tim and then a hand up from Dave.
I'll reserve my hand up for later on.
All right, Dave, go ahead.
I was curious if it would be possible for Major Leibold, prior to either one of these designs coming before the council, to poll his officers. So the council would see what would be more palatable to the officers between the two patches.
Actually, that's what I was going to see too. If the committee was okay with either one of these designs, could we poll, and then yes, the committee submits these two designs, and then so the council still has their pick, and then the officers, I can put this out to a vote of the officers and let the council use that as part of their determination.
I would like that. Appreciate it.
That's the same thing.
That sounds like a great idea. Is there an official motion for that?
I will make a motion that we submit these two designs through the PD to the council with both recommendations of the committee that either one is fine, and that the PD chooses whichever one the vote turns out.
All right, we've got a motion on the floor.
Tim will second.
And we got a second. So we've got a motion and a second to gather a preference. Maybe a preference poll is probably the best way to describe that, of existing officers between designs 107C and 107G. We'll go through a roll call.
Excuse me, Davis, clarification. This is just one additional bit of information that would come to the council, correct?
That's correct. So it would be of these two designs, which is preferred.
Preferred. Okay.
Any further discussion on this item? Otherwise, Aaron.
Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Spencer.
Yes.
Shaviva.
Yes.
Latanya.
Yes.
Rhonda.
No.
Teresa.
Yes.
Marcus.
Yes.
And myself is voting yes. So that's 9 out of 10. So, and if the next motion is to adjourn, I suspect we're going to get 10 out of 10.
Hang on. I got one
Tim
more
had
thing.
a hand up.
Yeah.
Who had their hand up? I'm sorry, I'll let them go first.
Only to implore Sharon and Dave, when this does come to council on these two designs, please make sure they know it was the narrowest of votes. Please let them know that there were strong feelings expressed on both sides, and there's a whole lot of emotional quotient in this. And hopefully over time that it is seen as a compromise and we can move forward. But this was not a slam dunk either way. The other footnote, if I'd say, is if there should be a chance that we gravitate to one of the bridge designs, 109B or 109C, count on a few $100s extra of attorney fees, because the Waterloo Community Foundation, of which I am chairing the board, won't contest that, but will sure want to check out that it isn't an infringement on our trademark.
Go ahead, Joe.
I'll go now. I want to thank everybody, first of all, for being part of this. And as Cliff stated earlier, this has not been easy for any of us. And I know we all have different voices in our heads from the community, from existing officers, retired officers, reserve officers. We all heard it. So I just want to thank everybody for taking the time. And I would be remiss if I didn't congratulate Tavis on his award. For those of you who haven't seen the news, he won the Joe Taylor Vision Award for Waterloo. And I think that's a pretty big deal. So I just want to at least congratulate him for that. And as much as we've disagreed, we've agreed on things. So it's been a learning experience, I think, for me as well. So thank you.
Thanks, man.
And let me add on behalf of the council how much we appreciate the time and the effort and the emotion that you put into this. We truly appreciate it. Again, knowing it was a rough decision for both sides. I think coming together and compromise is always the answer. So thank you very much.
And I'll just throw in there as well that thanks, Joe, for the shout out on that award. It was a surprise for sure.
I think I finished second, but just, yeah.
We it's been a stressful committee, right? Most committees we do it when we're excited about the end product, and we sort of went into this one knowing it was going to mean compromise and it was going to mean giving up a little bit of what we held dear in the interest of hopefully finding some level of common ground. I think that we've done some level of that. It obviously was made a little bit more difficult by these damn Zoom calls, but it also provided us hopefully with a starting block for continued conversations. Let's not, because this thing passed, 6-4 vote or whatever that number was, just because it passed by a relatively thin margin. Don't think that means that the work is done. This obviously, even still today, we have some conversations around this issue and around other issues of community and policing, and we've got to do a good job, a better job, quite frankly, of bridging some of those divides, even if it means difficult conversations. Muscle doesn't get built without resistance, and I know that we're all ultimately going to be stronger for it. It might not always feel great while we're doing it, but we're all building something better here. So thanks everybody for your service, for jumping into this, for hearing about it pretty much everywhere you went. If you're like me, it's been taxing, but proud to have served with all of you all. So thank you.
Thanks to you, Tavis and Joe. Good job.
Do we have a motion to adjourn or further discussion?
Motion to
There
adjourn.
was a motion earlier to adjourn.
The presider does not need a motion to adjourn. That's why you're the presider. Just adjourn it.
Yeah. See ya.
You got the power, guys. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.